What's up, everybody? My name is Alex Wilson, host of Fireside Giants, an Empire Sports Media production. You're listening to the Fireside Giants podcast. If you are a diehard Giants fan, you've come to the right place. Daily episodes and so much more. Make sure to drop a like and a subscription below on YouTube. And don't forget to leave a comment. We love to engage with everybody. Today's episode going to be looking at a new mammoth offensive tackle the Giants acquired via the International Pathway Program. Shout out to Osi Umenyiora. And I want to talk about Daniel Jones for a couple minutes. Why he could break out in 2022. A lot of people, why he's not going to break out. They're, talking about the downfalls, the offensive line. But I do want to give some thoughts into why he could end up being a good quarterback for the Giants this upcoming season and what that would mean for the team. But before we dive into all of that stuff, I do want to say, a few words about Dwayne Haskins, who passed away on Saturday morning. He was struck by a truck, I believe, and I'm sending a lot of love and condolences to his family. An awful, awful, awful situation. I honestly, I can't believe another person losing their life with everything going on in the world right now. It's super, super important that we live life to the fullest because you never know when something could end at the blink of an eye. And a lot of people are sending a lot of love to Haskins, his family, his wife. And, I'm sending it as well. It's heartbreaking, honestly. I just can't even fathom to believe that something like this could happen. And it just shows it can happen to anybody, no matter how rich or poor you are. So I'm sending a lot of love to everybody listening right now. And of course, to the family of Dwayne Haskins. Rest in peace. Definitely a great guy. A lot of people said a lot of amazing things about him. So I think he deserves all the credit in the world for what he's accomplished in life. But diving into this segment today for the New York Giants, I do want to talk about their new offensive tackle. The dude is 6'9", I think 330 pounds. I may butcher his last name, but Rob Mbeteka from Nigeria. So Osi Umenyiora played a tremendous role, a significant role, setting up the International Pathway Program, helping it come to fruition. And it's done some really good things. Mailata, the offensive tackle for the Eagles, who has become a tremendous player for them, came through the International Pathway Program, I believe. I don't know if it was from Hawaii. I forgot exactly where he came from. But he came from international lands, and now the Giants went out and found themselves a 6'9" behemoth offensive tackle. And Umenyiora went as far as to say the Giants, he did not connect with the Giants at all about this. He did not ask them to sign him. He did not do anything to lead them in their direction. But nonetheless, new general manager Joe Schoen and the whole management and scouting organization, portion of the organization, did a great job in scouting him. They were in Arizona last week, and they did a good job going there and checking out some of the guys. Jeremy Bright was there and said, this guy looks like he has some just tremendous athletic capabilities. And they went out and signed him. And you don't often find guys that are 6'9" and 320 pounds. That is a gift. That is a naturally born. You just can't force somebody to grow that size. So I think the Giants got, if not anything, an absolute brick wall of a human being at tackle. And it's a developmental piece, right? The Giants don't know what he's going to be. Nobody knows what he's going to be, but you can't have enough developmental guys. And the best part about it is it doesn't count to the roster because it is an international player like Sanjo Platzkumer, running back. I do believe that he will probably be released. And the Giants want to invest as many assets into the offensive line as possible. And I think that that's one of the things to kind of shout out Joe Schoen for doing so far this offseason. He's done a tremendous job. I know I've used the word tremendous a couple of times. I'm going to change that word up. Try to change that word up moving forward. But he's done a great job actually investing different assets from different portions of their capital to the offensive line, whether it be through free agency and using money to find offensive linemen, or whether it's the international pathway, which is a free roster spot. And then, of course, we have the 2022 NFL draft coming up in a couple of weeks, whereas, the Giants previously last year did not draft an offensive lineman. I think this year we can expect them to go find themselves a right tackle. Now, Joe Schoen and management have been looking at the secondary tier list of offensive linemen. Abraham Lucas, a guy that Anthony spoke about from, I believe, Central Michigan. Yesterday, he wrote about him. They looked at a couple guys, of course, Trevor Penning, kind of a mid-first round dude, maybe even a later first round guy. There's been a lot of different prospects the Giants have been working out lately. And then, of course, you have the top three in Charles Cross, Ike Mekonu, and Evan Neal. And the Giants do have a good chance to land one of those top three offensive tackles, and the quarterback hype obviously helps them. I think the Jets are in an interesting position. I spoke with my uncle, who's a huge Jets fan. specifically about where the Jets could go. He believes they're going to go with a Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that they might go with Sauce Gardner because they need more secondary help than pass rush help. But, that would really, catapult another offensive lineman to the Giants. And then you have guys or teams rather like the Carolina Panthers who could move up and potentially go for a quarterback. The Detroit Lions could go for a quarterback. There is a world where Evan Neal slips to number 5, which was, in my opinion, the ideal scenario. But Mbetika from Nigeria, really, really talented guy in terms of athleticism. He's raw, obviously, with fundamentals, but he's super, super smart. Umanora said once you see him, he's physically imposing. And in a year or two, if you immerse him into the football culture, he's going to be fantastic. He also went on to say a lot of people think this was me, but I had nothing to do with this. The Giants decided they were going to fly him in. They did this on their own. For it to be the Giants of all teams, it means the world to me. It really does. So I do want to give props to the Giants as well for utilizing that avenue to find themselves another offensive line prospect who could end up being something special. Who knows? 6'9", 320 pounds, super athletic. What's not to like? Again, very raw. They need to develop him. It's going to take time, but he's really young. I think he's only like 21 years old, or he's really, really young, something around there. So I think that overall, it's really just a great scenario for the Giants to find themselves a nice developmental piece who could end up being something special. It can't hurt at the end of the day. But the next portion of this segment, of this episode, is going to be about Daniel Jones. Now, I've been thinking a lot about Daniel Jones, and we've listed a lot of times why Daniel Jones could end up struggling. Why the Giants are not ready to promote a big-time quarterback, why they're not ready to elevate a guy like DJ or any other player for that matter. And that's really based on the last couple of years. Dave Gettleman failure to draft appropriately, failure to plug the offensive line. The Giants had one of the worst ranked offensive lines in football last year, and really the last 3 years in total. The Nate Solder scenarios, the Eric Flowers, the Will Hernandez's, the last year. I mean, I tweeted today a big shout out to Andrew Thomas because the guy managed to put together an unbelievable season with Ben Bredesen and Matt Skura as his left guards. If you give Andrew Thomas a decent left guard, he's going to be an all pro level player, and I would take that to the bank. But when you're looking at Daniel Jones, this is the best scenario he's gotten so far. He was sacked 38 times during his rookie season. He threw 24 touchdown passes under Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur obviously kind of utilized downfield a little bit more. He really had Daniel Jones throwing the football fearlessly. Jason Garrett tried to utilize him like a robot. 45 sacks in 2020, 22 sacks last season, but 11 touchdown passes and 10 touchdown passes. Not much production to show for the level of talent that Daniel Jones really is. He has a good arm. He can run. He's a smart guy. His work ethic is impeccable, and he has some leadership capability. So when you're looking at Daniel Jones as a pure prospect, if he was a rookie this year, I'd say this is a guy who's going into a position with Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. Those two guys are probably some of the best in the NFL in terms of developing a quarterback. Patrick Mahomes with Kafka and Josh Allen with Brian Dable. It doesn't get much better than that. Like I said, if there's two guys who can get the most out of a quarterback, it is Kafka and Dable. Daniel Jones has his best opportunity in terms of scheme and offensive knowledge. This is his best chance to really put his best foot forward. But it's going to come down to the protection. It's going to come down to the offensive line, like I said, and it's going to come down to the coaching and the ability to develop a scheme that maximizes his strengths. Going downfield, of course, that's a big one. But Kenny Golladay needs loftier balls. He needs to go up and get the football at its highest point. Daniel Jones throws lasers. That is not the type of football that Kenny Golladay is best at receiving. Personally, that's how I feel. But when you're looking at Daniel Jones, I think that this is the best opportunity for him to take a step forward and really showcase why he's capable of being a franchise quarterback. But the reality is it may be too little too late. Going into your fourth season, the Giants have about 3 weeks until they have to make a decision on his fifth-year option. What are the different things they can do if Daniel Jones ends up succeeding? Well, the expectation is they will decline his fifth-year option. If that is what they end up doing, the two avenues they have are either they can franchise tag him, which would be, I believe, $22 million next year to franchise tag Daniel Jones for an extra season, or you extend him and maybe you give him 3 years, $60 million deal with $20 million per season, right? In my opinion, there's no way Daniel Jones is going to show us a 40 touchdown year, maybe not even a 30 touchdown year. If he throws 28 touchdowns and he shows some nice progress, maybe you lock him in at 3 years, $20 million per season. and you continue to develop him. That's not a crazy amount for a quarterback. Of course, the Giants would prefer to maybe reset and go with a rookie. But Daniel Jones, like, what is a realistic stat line for him that would, in my opinion, justify extending him? Maybe 30 touchdown passes, 5 rushing touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, less than 5 fumbles, and a 64% completion rate. And maybe being sacked like 30 times maximum. He's really got to get the football out quickly, but he also has to make good decisions. He made a lot of one read bad decisions last year, hot reads, but Jason Garrett was forced to do that. Jason Garrett's scheme made no sense. I feel like he was an imposter because at times he would try to shrink the field. And by shrinking the field, this guy was having Daniel Jones roll out to his right side where Nate Solder, the turnstile, was sitting. And it's like, why would you roll him out to the recycling bin instead of rolling him out to your Pro Bowl left tackle where, we saw him have a nice couple of passes to Dante Pettis at the end of the season against Baltimore. He had a tremendous pass across his body. Why roll him out to the recycling bin when you could roll him out to your almost Pro Bowl left tackle? It makes no sense. Like, Jason Garrett was way in over his head. The guy, I can't believe that guy's been in the NFL for coaching for over 10 years. I'm very happy they got rid of him. And the Giants have really committed to building their offensive scheme. And I think it's going to be a lot better than it was in previous seasons, specifically because they have two different offensive minds who also think differently, right? So Mike Kafka is more of a West Coast style offensive coordinator, or really offensive mind, whereas Brian Daboll is a spread offensive guy. So you have those blending together, and maybe you're able to maximize the players in the roster. I really, really like how Brian Daboll has gone to the playmakers on the team and said, hey, what do you like? What do you like to run? What are the plays that you prefer, and why? Because you look at Daniel Jones, and if you think about what he's good at running the football. He has pretty solid accuracy, and he can throw the ball downfield. So some of the plays that he might want to run are, those zone read options. He doesn't mind getting hit. So the zone read option, I think, would be ideal. I think, that would be something that he could use more frequently. We saw it with Josh Allen. He also mentioned that with Josh Allen specifically, they would kind of stay away from running the football until later on in the year when it came to the playoff time, crunch time, and they would kind of start to utilize that more because that's ultimately how they were winning football games. But this is the best opportunity for Daniel Jones. And that's the main reason I believe he could break out, is because the coaching is so much better. Looking at the coaching staff the past couple of years, looking at the scheme, looking at the turnover, with Joe Judge and Mark Colombo going face to face, like, it's just, this is the type of stuff you can't have. The Giants and the new structure that they've built, the new strategy and the relationships they're building, I think it's going to end up being very, very beneficial for Daniel Jones and the coaching staff in general, and hopefully everybody on the roster. But I'd love to hear your thoughts below on Daniel Jones, what you think about him moving forward. Do you think he can really succeed? If he does, are you okay extending him? Or would you rather just say, I'd rather just reset and go with a rookie quarterback? What is the stat line you think would be realistic for Daniel Jones for you to be like, okay, let's extend him. Let's keep going with DJ. Would it be 35 touchdowns? Would it be 30 touchdowns, 40 touchdowns? I'm curious to hear your thoughts below on the YouTube comments. But as always, make sure to like and subscribe, my friends, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.